Good morning. I want to respect everyone's time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. One thing that we are noticing is for some reason the Q&A function and the chat function doesn't seem to be enabled. So just wanted to make you aware that we are going to be kind of working on that in the background. If not, I'll ask you to kind of just note your questions as they're kind of coming up, and then we will share an email address at the end of our presentation for you to kind of send in. We were already planning on scheduling the release of an FAQ document. So with that, welcome. Happy Wednesday. We know that it is middle of the week, end of June, and our summer seems to be going very quickly. But we know that it has taken a time commitment for all of you to spend some time with us this morning to learn about the Texas COVID Learning Acceleration supports for the T-Class supports coming out of the agency and the associated grant. So my name is Lizette Ridgway. I'm the Director of District Systems and Strategies, and I'm going to be sharing this information with you today along with my colleague. So I'll let Andrew introduce himself now.
Hey everybody, you would think 13 months into this I could find the unmute button quicker, but it is wonderful to be here with y'all. As Lizette mentioned, my name is Andrew Hodgman, the Director of Innovative Instructional Models at TEA. And first and foremost, thank you for spending part of your day with us. I know it's summer, which doesn't really mean a break for a lot of y'all. So thanks so much for being here, and hopefully we can provide some useful information along with some great supports for y'all over the next hour.
Yep. We also have Kristen Hull. She's our Associate Commissioner of Instructional Strategies. She's going to help us manage the chat or the Q&A once that gets up and running. But she'll also serve as a resource if we have questions at the end. And we have Dr. Monica Ruiz-Mills, who is our Director of Effective District Practices. And so we are the team that's going to be sharing this information with you all today. What we would love to cover with you all is really we want to hit 4 major goals, and that is we want to provide you with an overview of the Texas COVID Learning Acceleration Supports, or the T-Class grant. We're going to walk through the application timeline and the key components that you and your team really need to be made aware of. We're going to preview our T-Class guidance document, which will be posted on a newly launched website that will be on the TEA website, or a webpage on the TEA website, as well as a funding calculator. This will help with kind of estimating some of the funding support that you would receive through this grant. And then the last piece is really point you to any additional resources that we will have posted that we will be offering over the next couple of weeks, and ways for you all to learn more. So let's dig in. What is T-Class? So T-Class is a targeted set of supports and a way for districts to really receive additional state and federal funding to really support their strategies in learning acceleration. This is the first time that the agency has engaged in a grant like this. What makes this grant particularly unique is that it is an opportunity for LEAs to access this T-Class funding and supports through a single and streamlined discretionary non-competitive grant. So what this means from the LEA side of things is that this is really going to mimic the simplicity of a formula grant. You aren't going to see that you need to submit any long narrative responses, any short answer questions. There's really specifically for our smaller or rural schools, there's not a need for contracting for grant writers to ensure that you are submitting an application. And it's going to provide you with kind of some easy budget calculations. And so we'll talk a little bit more about this. So this first time ever T-Class grant is an opportunity for us to offer about $1.4 billion in services and supports out to the state. This one single grant will provide access to 15 kind of unique and customized TEA supports that around learning acceleration. And it's all through one single district application to access those funds. So if you think about the way that you've accessed funding before, if there was a particular support that you were interested in, each one of those supports usually had an associated grant application. So this is an opportunity for us to hopefully reduce that duplication of effort for you and your team, and provide kind of a single avenue for you to access the supports. So we're going to recap quickly with a slide that if you have joined any of Commissioner Superintendent calls or anything around kind of what the agency is providing in around learning acceleration, you've probably seen this slide. And this really captures the key components of the learning acceleration framework that can really best support the learning acceleration of our students who maybe have seen some significant disruptions due to COVID and some of the unforeseen circumstances that we've experienced over the last year and a half. The learning acceleration framework that T-Class really focuses on is really pulling from these three key aspects. One is around supporting teachers so that they're able to deliver around kind of the excellence in instruction that's needed in the classroom. The second is rigorous instructional materials. And these materials are really designed to kind of fill in some of the gaps that have occurred, to really make up ground quickly, and are designed to work both in a remote instruction environment as well as in person and on campus. And the last one is creating opportunities for more time for those that are most in need. So taking advantage of opportunities to increase the instructional time for students, whether that is kind of during the school day, before or after the school day, or even taking advantage of the summer. In T-Class, you're also going to see kind of two additional categories that have been added kind of to some the learning acceleration strategies. So you will note that we still have kind of the three that we just talked about, which is the instructional materials, supporting teachers through teacher pipelines, and creating more time. You're also going to see accelerating learning strategies under strategic planning. And this is a nice way to kind of kick off kind of the pursuit of some learning acceleration strategies. This provides more strategic planning and performance management for a district to be able to strategically prioritize what are the learning accelerations that strategies that they're going to be taking advantage of, what supports are needed, how to think about intentionally planning for the launch and the implementation and kind of the continuous improvement and iteration that it's going to be needed, and the coordination across the district to really implement some of these learning acceleration strategies. On the far side, you're also going to see that we've included some learning acceleration strategies in as innovative instructional or innovative school models. The key difference here with innovative school models is that this is more at a campus level. It's an opportunity for a district to really be able to support a campus in implementing these instructional strategies within a campus. And so that is a way for that campus to be implementing some innovative school models to help incorporate multiple aspects of the learning acceleration framework. So when we think about the T-Class support is going to be over these kind of 5 accelerated learning strategies. And then we're actually going to take it one step deeper. So if you think about going to the next level, it's going to be structured through 10 decision points for districts to actually think through. So for strategic planning, you have a decision around the LEA Accelerated Learning Strategic Planning. So this is similar to the TEA initiative of the Resilient School Support Program, or RSSP. And we say it's similar because for T-Class, we have made some iterations to best support kind of our current landscape and our current environment and needs. So it is similar, but it is not exactly the same. Under instructional materials, there are 2 decision points, one around high quality instructional materials core approved products, and then one around high quality instructional materials supplemental approved products. Under teacher pipelines, also 2 decision points there for LEAs to consider. One is around recruitment of a teacher, and so creating a pipeline around recruiting teachers into the profession. And then decision 5 would be developing a residency program. And so it's kind of, when you're thinking about a teacher pipeline, it's a different strategy to go around kind of incorporating a teacher pipeline approach. More Time has 3 decisions: tutoring supports, which we have highlighted as we've kind of rolled out some information for Texas tutoring supports that are coming this fall. Decision 7 is around the school day or calendar redesign. And decision 8 is making kind of the most use or maximizing summer. And so it's around strong summer programs. And then the last one, which is innovative school models. So think about this one as instead of at a district approach, this is more kind of more campus focused. And that is decision 9. So it's creating PTech, which is Pathways of Technology, Early College, High School. And decision 10, which is new school models. Similar initiatives there for new school models is something similar to the School Action Fund or SAF. I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, and we're going to go and start to kind of dig into some of these decisions a bit more.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Lizette. So Lizette kind of gave you the high-level structure of TCLAS, so those 5 learning acceleration strategies that are then broken down into individual decision points. But then the question is, decision points, what does that actually mean? And what does that mean that's relevant to what I already know or what we're facing in our districts right now? So what we're actually going to do is just kind of go strategy by strategy, and we're going to start with strategic planning and just talk through a little bit about what is included in TCLAS in each of those, each of the strategies and decision points. So with strategic planning, and this is similar to what Lizette mentioned earlier, there are folks in the audience right now that are familiar with our Resilient School Support Program, RSSP, but strategic planning with the TCLAS lens on it is primarily and predominantly related to strategic planning around learning acceleration. So what this support includes is district-wide strategic planning, prioritization. There's a ton on folks' plates right now, so I want to ensure that folks have the time and space to be able to prioritize and plan out. Project management, ongoing planning, campus level implementation, PD, and some examples of that are down below. So this is really around the campus implementing a lot of the TCLAS or other learning acceleration strategies that we've heard from y'all in the field. And that will be, those supports will be customized to the unique LEA needs. So that will be a decision point, something that you can opt into with TCLAS. Oh, by the way, there's also funding for a data fellow within that to ensure that the learning acceleration strategies, the work that the district is doing, is aligned to what y'all are seeing, what is true with students and teachers in your individual districts. With instructional materials, many folks are familiar with some of the work that we've done either around Texas home learning, some other initiatives that we've led, but instructional materials specifically allows folks to select into supports around high quality instructional materials. So these are rigorous, 100% TCLAS aligned, high quality instructional materials, curriculum and instructional materials. So think entire scope and sequence broken into unit plans, broken into lesson plans, student work, parent supports and guidance for teachers. And that is all available through the core instructional materials that are offered through TCLAS, where folks can just opt in, and we will actually provide folks with printed materials. I want to be clear that these are all digitally available to folks as well, but this gives folks the option to actually have that, that tangible in-hand print version. Materials in and of themselves we know are important, but not the end-all be-all, and so that's why there's wraparound supports of using high-quality instructional materials. A few initiatives that folks in the field have heard that are included in TCLAS or CRIMSI, or COVID Recovery Instructional Materials Support Initiative. I love those acronyms. Math Innovation Zones is also another one that supports folks specifically with high quality blended learning instructional materials options. In addition to that, there's options for folks to opt in to licenses to supplemental products that are aligned to high quality instructional materials. So these are things like supports for early learners, some college prep materials for 11th and 12th grade students, and then some other blended learning licenses that we're able to provide folks with. That being said, we know materials are important, but it is about the folks that are in the classroom and that y'all have in your pipelines to fill your classrooms and fill your schools. And so in TCLAS, there's also support with teacher pipelines. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see a few things that folks in the field may be a little bit familiar with and what these supports entail. Or teacher residency programs, and essentially support in developing a teacher residency pathway within your individual LEA. In addition to that is technical assistance with strategic staffing. And so LEAs will get targeted technical assistance to help support teachers that are included in this program with teacher residency and staffing models. Again, all of these supports are essentially, at the end of the day, the T-Class application, something that you can say, hey, we need this, we want this in our district, and you'll opt into it. And then in-kind and grant supports will follow. Grow Your Own, a lot of folks are familiar with Grow Your Own, and this essentially helps LEAs develop pathways for your own students to become teachers within the district. So another really good option through T-Class that equips folks with technical assistance and stipends. The third big learning acceleration, the fourth learning acceleration strategy, but I think the third one we talk about, the three ones in the middle that you see there, is more time. We know that we've lost a considerable amount of learning time over the past 16 months, and our students need more time and more opportunities to engage with high quality instruction than ever before. So a couple of supports that are included in the T-Class are, they've heard a lot of the work that we're doing around tutoring. So the Vetted Texas Tutor Core is going to be included in T-Class. So an option for LEAs to get access to a pre-vetted curriculum, subsidized cost for tutors as well, for folks that are interested in a tutoring support. In addition, there is the ADSE Additional Days School Year Planning and Execution Program. This essentially funds folks to expand their school year. So gives folks the gift of time, provides more opportunities, more days in the school calendar, whether that's through an intersessional model throughout the school year, through actually changing the school day and expanding the school year to give teachers and students more time with either like brain breaks, or students more time with enrichment activities. Also, high quality summer learning programs. We know a lot of folks have developed high quality summer learning programs, and so support in developing that high quality summer learning program will be available through T-Class through the more time section of the grant application. And then lastly, we know that there are folks that are out in the field that are saying, you know what, we want to do a little bit of everything. And when I say a little bit of everything, that might be an understatement. We want to take an innovative approach to rethinking the way that we do school, the way that we offer school-based opportunities for our students. And so in the innovative school models section, you will see some supports and initiatives that are designed to support students to earn high school diploma and post-secondary degree at the same time. Many folks have been familiar with our P-TECH initiatives, and so that will be included in T-Class. So folks will have the opportunity to opt into creating a P-TECH campus, a new P-TECH campus, and get planning support with that, or school redesign. So there are definitely folks in the field that are saying, hey, we need a different approach. We need an innovative approach. And so the school redesign process, and this is similar to our school action fund process that many folks are familiar with, provides a kind of a step back planning, design, launch scale of a new school model or redesigned school model that is available through T-Class as well. So it's a lot, and like Lizette said, CEA has never done anything quite like this before, and this is really an opportunity for us to support districts in streamlining a process to opt into, to select into a whole host of TEA-led supports and funds directly to districts in a way that's as easy as possible and takes as light of a lift on y'all to actually in the application phase. I will be clear that there's a lot of decisions, right? Like this is quite a bit of new, and we know that there is a substantial amount of things on folks' plates right now. So we've developed a few resources to support districts in making these decisions, which we'll go through in a second. So to step back, again, there's 5 learning acceleration strategies through T-Class, and then what districts will be opting into are actual supports that are included within these 10 decision points. Those will all be available through the T-Class application, and we'll be able to provide more guidance for folks through the guidance doc that we are walking through in a minute. So Lizette, I'll turn it back over to you, and then we'll move forward.
Great, thanks, Andrew. let's dig in a little bit into what is the timeline and what is the application process going to look like. So given what Andrew just said, we know that it's a lot of decisions that need to be made on the district side. And also naming that you all are likely working on your ESSER 3 plan right now, knowing that that is due in July. And so how can you really maximize the conversations that you will are already having among your team? So let's kind of take a look of like, what are the big milestones that you need to be aware of if you are interested in trying to kind of supplement your current maybe ESSER 3 plan that you're developing right now with some additional funding to that can be supported through some of the supports that Andrew just talked about. So today we're having our webinar where we're able to kind of walk you through the guidance document. And so Andrew will get to that in just a little bit. This is a very comprehensive guidance document. And it's important that districts really take the time to identify what are the supports that are available so that then they can start to narrow down their focus on the ones that they're wanting to pursue and learn more about. We are going to have an application that will open on July 19th. That date was selected very intentionally because it does overlap a little bit with the ESSER 3 plan, ESSER 3 application that's coming in. This will allow you all to have the opportunity to really think through in what situations do we feel like we could use additional funding to support some of the strategies that we've identified already in our ESSER 3 plan, that we could potentially maybe free up some other money to do some other things. And so we wanted to give you all a little bit of overlap time from when the guidance document was released and when the application opens. That application is going to be a Qualtrics survey application. And the reason why we went down this route is because we wanted to really incorporate the simplicity of a survey, the simplicity of not having the long narrative responses, but having more of kind of drop downs and kind of single selections or multi-selection responses for each one of those questions. The application will be open for 30 days. So we're going to see that Qualtrics survey link. It's going to be open. You'll on our website, and it will close on August 20th of 2021. So you'll want to ensure that you're putting those two dates on your calendar because a 30-day window can seem very short, knowing that that also kind of overlaps with the start of school. TEA will then be moving very quickly, and we're able to do this because it is a Qualtrics application. We'll be moving very quickly to review the responses that are submitted through the Qualtrics application. And we're going to be then notifying districts of a preliminary award amount on or before September 10th. And so if you see that our window for review is very short, but very purposeful and with the route of going with a Qualtrics survey. What this does is that it gives the LEA the opportunity to know the money that they're going to be expecting to receive, and they can actually start using and planning for that money to come very early in the fall semester. Once you're notified of your preliminary award amount, it is also going to notify you that the second step of your application process is ready, and that is a customized Egrants application. And so if you think about for those districts that have experience in formula grants, then you know that you go in and you complete a quick eGrants application. This eGrants application will be a budget table and some assurances, and it'll also provide you with the award amount that you have previously been notified about. But this is an opportunity for you to say, I accept the money that you all are offering and that we applied for in the Qualtrics survey, and then it will move into the grant negotiation process. We hope to have the grant negotiation process and NOGAs out to districts no later than December 1st. While we know that December 1st is probably not the ideal date, that is really why that preliminary award amount notification date is so important, is that we wanted to make sure that we are actually giving you plenty of time to know the money that you are going to be have access to so that you can begin using that. And you will have the opportunity to use pre-award. And so pre-award will be allowed going back to March 1st of 2021. So that is the March that just passed this past spring. And so once you know that preliminary award amount in September, any work that you have done or that you can do to support these learning acceleration strategies in T-Class, that maybe you have done over the summer, that maybe you are starting to do already in the fall, that can be used. You can use some of that money, and that's kind of the flexibility that you have with pre-award. One thing that we do want to note when it comes to pre-award is we invite you to really look at your own board policies within your district to see if you need to take anything to the board ahead of time to ensure that you can access pre-award funds prior to getting the NOGA. So it might be something that you want to bring to your board for your August or your September board meetings to ensure that the board has either agreed to your use of pre-award or has accepted a policy that would allow you to access pre-award. The T-Class application components, so what you will have is resources as you're kind of going through kind of those key milestones in applying for this grant is you're going to want to access the guidance document. We're going to take some time in just a minute. Andrew is going to walk us through the guidance document to orient you to the way that it is structured and how districts can best utilize this resource. The second thing that Andrew is going to be kind of walking us through today is the budget calculator or a funding calculator. This is by decision point. So once you've narrowed down the decision points that you feel are best fit for both your district's goals and your district's kind of pursuit of learning acceleration strategies, you'll want to go in and fill out the information necessary in this budget calculator to give you kind of an estimate of what is the grant funds that would be available to you and that you could receive via the T-Class app. And then the last piece is the application via the Qualtrics survey. That will be posted on our website or on our web page for T-Class on the TEA website, and that will be posted on 7/19. It will likely be associated with a to the administrator address letter, and so we will make sure that there is some communication going out to the field to let you all know that that is posted. So I'm going to turn it back to my colleague, Andrew, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that he's able to share his screen and walk you through both the guidance document and the funding calculator.
Thanks, Lizette. I do not have screen sharing privileges, which is smart by whoever set this up. But Lizette, I think if, unless the host can, there we go, host. I love the ominous TEA logo with no name. I don't even know who that person is, but I'm glad you're here and just gave me screens. So here's okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So what I wanna do is, especially since folks are not able to see, since we're not able to send out the address in the chat, I want to start with a place that folks are familiar with, and so that is through the COVID-19 supports. I'm actually going to navigate here, so folks at home, y'all can navigate there as well. So on the TEA COVID response page, and you can get there through this Get Updates piece. You can also Google it, which is typically what I do, which is a little bit simpler. So if you go to the TA website and then click on COVID supports, then go ahead and scroll down to this little tab right here that says Instructional Continuity Planning. And then you can get to this tile down here that says Texas COVID Learning Acceleration Supports. We're gonna follow up this email with the actual link, so you don't have to do that navigation. But just wanted you to know where it is so that you can follow along right now if that's something that you'd like. So everything that we put out about T-Class will be shared in a couple of ways. The primary one will be through this webpage. So we will we'll get out communications to folks, and we'll host information. We'll also host resources as well. There's a little bit of information that that you've seen already. And then as you scroll down, what you'll see is some of the opportunities to engage. So this slide should look a little bit familiar. This is where Lizette was a minute ago on the PowerPoint slide. But here you'll be able to actually see the upcoming supports for T-Class. You can register. This is where we're going to post the recording and the slides. Also, we'll send that out to the folks that register for this as well, just to make sure that you have it. But we'll also include registration for upcoming webinars and additional supports here as well. So these are the decision point specific webinars that you can register for. The registration links are all set up for you to go ahead and access right now. And then with the decision point specific webinars, these will walk through in a really in-depth way, and we'll have Q&A built in, walk through each of those decision points. So if you say, well, I think I want more time, I think I want tutoring, but I want to know more, then you should go to Decision 6 Tutoring Supports, and you should register for that webinar. Also want to call out our email address. It's listed here. We know there's some questions already coming into this email inbox from this webinar. So thanks for that. Appreciate you being flexible as we work to get up the chat. But this is going to be your go-to when you have questions about T-Cos. Okay, so the additional resources section is where I think folks are going to find a lot of really useful resources. We'll post these slides in the recording of this webinar, but two documents that I want to highlight, or two files that I want to highlight specifically for folks, are here as well. So if you click into this T-Class guidance document, what'll pop up is this, this 70-page light reading for your summer vacations that are coming up, hopefully. But this is the guidance document that essentially walks you through all things T-Class. So as you scroll through that document, and I want to highlight a few specific things in there. There's a nice table of context that lets you jump to your specific section. I do want to call out as we get started, this isn't meant for you to read it from front to back. This is meant as a way for you to go in where you have specific questions and get access to the information that is that's available to you. So I think this is, I would take this in a bite-sized chunk and look through it, review the overview, but then I would jump down to the different sections in it. There's a little bit of context here, which you're getting because you've been in this webinar. So congratulations, you've already moved forward in the guidance document. There's some information about how to use the actual guidance document as well. Information about calculating the budget for T-Class, and we are going to link that calculator in shortly after this call, so you won't have to jump to a ton of different places to do that. But that calculator actually allows you to say, these are the 4 things that I think we want through T-Class. What does that mean in terms of dollars and in-kind supports that we're getting for folks? There's an overview of the application process, but what I'm really interested in spending some time on today, besides TEA acronyms, which I know is the reason why folks are here, is getting into the actual T-Class application. So there's a section called General LEA Information, and I want to stop here for a second to just kind of orient on this document. So really, there's a guidance document for the application. At the end of the day, all that folks are submitting to TEA is this Qualtrics-based application. What we've tried to do with this guidance document is call out all the information that you're going to need to be able to submit that Qualtrics survey before even getting to that point. So what you'll see throughout this document is a little bit of context, but then also these kind of tables that are built out where the yellow cells, that's actually where districts are going to input information. So here's a general section right now. LEA name, LEA ID, et cetera, some kind of demographic information as well that's going to it's going to impact kind of the prioritization of future grants. And we'll talk through that in a second. But that's generally how this document is oriented. I'm going to scroll down to a specific decision to walk through what this looks like when folks are actually going through the process. So this is decision point 1, accelerated learning strategic planning. And what folks will do is they'll use this guidance document to really guide that conversation, guide the conversation that needs to happen at your district or charter to let you know, is this something that we actually need? There's a lot of really useful stuff in here, but that doesn't mean it's all going to be exactly what you need. So really want to support folks in smart decision making here that is based on your unique local needs. And that's what this guidance document is intended to do. You'll see some context about the goals of the individual decision point, and then you'll get an overview of the included supports. So sometimes the decision points are broken down into multiple supports, and districts can opt into some, all, or none of those as you see fit. There's a description of each support here. So for example, the LEA strategic planning and coaching. Here is what that actually means. So you have prioritization of learning acceleration strategies, LEA-wide planning support, opt-in support for implementation at campuses, opportunities to engage with kind of a collective impact network as well. So that's the support that folks can get. There's also information about additional considerations that you should consider when making this decision. We've provided additional resources as well. This is really high level, what's up in this table, but folks are going to want to know more, and we hope folks seek out more information in making these decisions. So there are additional resources that are linked in the table before you do make the decision. Each of the decision points within the guidance document is generally broken into 2 pages. So the front page is the context, right? It's the overview. The second page is what you will be putting into the application. And so this is where you'll be able to navigate to a grant calculator. And again, we'll link that out shortly after this call. But this provides all the information that LEAs are going to be asked to provide on their application. What I want to highlight here is it's very different than a lot of our grant opportunities in the past. There's no narratives, there's no open-ended questions. This is very straightforward. Do you want this support? When do you want it to start? And what are the other considerations that you can provide? So each of these pages is broken down into general questions. Typically, these general questions go towards either prioritization, potentially in some cases prerequisite information. There are sometimes additional resources that are linked out here. But really, and what I want to get into today is this formula calculation. So when folks ask, what is T-Cos and what are we going to get out of T-Cos? Well, it depends on what you want. Where you input what you want will be in the application, and it will be answers to these questions. They're provided here on the guidance document to let you answer them, think through them before you're actually on the application as well. So these are the types of questions that are asked within the application. So for example, does the LEA want that support, that learning acceleration, strategic planning support? Do you want it in 21-22? Let me be clear, this is a start date of 21-22. And you can see here with this support, it will actually go over 16 months. So it will go into the 22-23 school year. So these sections just provide kind of a do you want it opportunity for you to say, yes, I want to select yes or no. In some cases, there will be numbers, units that you input as well. And so there's also that information down below. I want to highlight the notes section. You say, okay, well, Andrew, there's more information beyond that we need to know before opting into the grant. Absolutely. There's also information that we need to give y'all before you submit this information. So you'll see here in the notes, there's anything about prerequisites, priority points, what the award actually looks like, how we're going to calculate the award. That's all included below each of these tables. I want to just jump down to the instructional materials one. Sorry for the rapid moving, but jumping down into the high quality instructional materials, core approved products. Just want to highlight this because it looks a little bit different. You still see these general questions up top. But here, this is actually, so remember the first one, strategic planning is more of strategic planning support. So do you want it? When do you want it? This high quality instructional materials decision point, specifically around 2A. So LEA implementation support and system-wide professional learning and stipends. This is more dependent on units of folks that are participating on this. So an example of that is, do you want it, which you saw previously? And then if you do want it, how many do you want? So what this allows us to do is calculate the grant award and get that information to y'all. And then it also allows you to understand a little bit about what is available to you through T-Cos. A couple other things that I want to highlight quickly, and I'll actually let's scroll down to another one. So school day calendar redesign. A couple other things that I want to highlight is that in some of these, there will be multiple decisions. And so this doesn't mean that folks need to say yes to both, but you certainly can if that is going to match what you need at the district. And then we'll also give you opportunities to go see any of the guiding questions and assurances. So this is the last thing that I want to highlight before we kick over to the calculator. Two specific places. There are guiding questions that will be linked, and they're actually below in this document. So we'll drop down here in a second. But there's guiding questions, and then there's also assurances that are available for the included supports. So we'll drop down to the assurances for, I believe let's go all the way down to the one we're already on. Okay, sorry. Okay, so these are the assurances that essentially you as a district will need to say, yes, we commit to these before you engage with the grant opportunity. So this is something that is a conversation that you're going to need to have with your district leadership team before you say, yes, we want this support. It will essentially, this is really similar to an assurances section of a grant that you've seen before. And this essentially outlines what the LEA is committing to. So those assurances are at the bottom of the document, and just above the assurances section, you'll see guiding questions. So this is the guiding questions for the same decision point that we were just on, new school models. The guiding questions are designed to help you as a district say, do we need this? And if we need this, what do we need? And what should we consider? So for example, the general questions that are included in this one, do we have a need for more A and B schools? If the answer is no, then this might not be the right support for folks. Has there been an LEA level data analysis and planning process? If no, there's probably another step that needs to happen here. So these guiding questions are not necessarily, they're not application questions, but they're questions that the LEA needs to consider before selecting in these supports. There's a lot. These are really in-depth conversations and very real conversations that a lot of folks that we know that y'all have on an ongoing basis. And so a few supports that are available to folks there. This information will be walked through a little bit more specifically on the individual decision point webinars. In addition to that, we're extremely lucky and fortunate to have our education service centers that are equipped to support districts in walking through these decisions and making choices based on T-Class. So I'm going to scroll back up to the top. I'm going to point out that table of contents once again, just because that kind of condenses this information. This is where I would start because I certainly wouldn't be able to consume all this information at once. But the table of contents is available to folks to be able to jump directly to any guiding questions, grant requirements, assurances, the individual decision points, and the overview. I'm going to kick back out to the T-Class website, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and now I'm going to access the T-Class funding calculator. The T-Class funding calculator is essential. So I know folks are thinking right now, that's a lot. How do we actually see what we get through T-Class? And the answer is that the T-Class funding calculator can help you to do that. So this is essentially just a calculator for y'all. You can use it as you see fit. And this is something to help you project what your grant award might be. So if you click on that, I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen share to that Excel document. Lizette, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see this? I'm assuming behind the there we go. Great. Thanks, Lizette. Okay, so this is the T-Class funding calculator. So this is something that's available back on that website that you can go in and go ahead and play with just to kind of get a feel for it and see what's available. This is the home page, the summary page. Gives you a little bit of context to how to use it, but really what you need to know is go to the LEA inputs tab, and all of the boxes that are in yellow are things that you can input, and you can see different grant awards. So for example, we'll start with the first section. These are the two main questions that you need to answer if you are a district that's interested in this strategic planning support. Again, this isn't all the context that you need to have before making this decision. Take that back to the guidance document, have those conversations with your LEA leadership team, pull in other folks as needed. But after you're able to make that decision, you want to see what your award looks like. You could go to the calculator. I gotta enable editing. You can go to the calculator and you can just build in your award. So, for example, if you do want LEA Decision 1A supports, and these are strategic planning supports, you can just click yes. And essentially what that means is that your T-Class grant award would be $200,000 of in-kind supports. If that's all you want, if that's all you're looking for, that's okay. But you have a lot of other options within the T-Class app that you can look into. Data strategy, full-time employee position. So if you want support for the data strategy full-time employee, you can click that through this calculator and it'll pop up. And so what this does is that it calculates your total award. This 125 will be sent to folks strictly as grant funds for folks to use on personnel costs related to this data strategy person. You'll also get $200,000 of in-kind support, meaning the total award value is $325,000. If you click back to the calculator summary page, this is where all that information rolls up. So this calculator is big. Take it part by part, but what you can see as you go through is that you'll have the opportunity to opt into specific supports. And then you can kind of see if I want these types of things, like what does that award change to? And again, so that will all pop up. You got to change a formula there, but that will pop up on the summary tab. You'll also be able to see the your award populated within this section. So this is a tool available for y'all to use as you see fit. Again, there's no requirement to send this to us, share it with us. This is for you to be able to use to essentially cost out the expected grant award with T-Class. That's a lot. Again, I'm going to go back real quick and I'm going to go back to the website and I'm going to show you how to get more support.
And Andrew, I am seeing that there are 3 people that have raised their hand. And so if you could scroll down to the email, okay. And if those 4 folks, if those folks could actually send us a quick email, we are going to try to answer some questions at the end. If you would send those questions via our email address. That's great.
So more support, to Lizette's point, here's the email address, tclass@ta.texas.gov. Pretty straightforward. Send those questions, and thanks a ton for sending all those questions and any feedback you have. Additional supports for folks as we move forward will be posted here on the T-Class website. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Lizette to talk a little bit about next steps.
All right, let me go back to our screen. Andrew, are you able to see it? Perfect. So as Andrew talked about, let's talk about what some next steps are. So you have kind of what we've covered so far is what is T-Class? What are the supports that are included and offered through the T-Class grant application? How are you going to engage in the application process, and what are those timelines and milestones that you need to know about? We pointed you to some resources, optional resources, because this is an optional grant. If you're going through some of those, the guiding questions, and you determine that that decision is not for you, we ask that you go to the next decision point. But there is not a requirement that you select one or more of these supports, right? So it is a completely optional grant. That is one of the questions that has already come in. So T-Class next steps would be We wanted to help you kind of map out how to best use the next couple of weeks so that you can take advantage of the T-Class opportunity if you are interested. So prior to that application release, so what are some things that you can start doing now that we have both our guidance document and that funding calculator up? So we invite you to go and read that guidance document. It does not have to be reading it cover to cover. It's actually utilizing the functionality of the table of contents and being able to skip around to not only kind of familiarize yourself with the overall T-Class process, but really digging into the specific supports that you are most interested in. Create a task force and an application lead prior to the application being released. That task force can be the same folks that maybe have helped engage in the discussions around your ESSER 3 plan or any kind of planning as you're thinking about this next school year, so that there isn't duplication of effort and there is kind of this coherence among district leaders on the learning acceleration strategies and the plans for next school year. We ask that you select one application lead, and that person is going to be responsible for actually putting in the information into the Qualtrics application survey. And because it is going to be a link, you want to ensure that districts are only applying one time. And so if there are multiple submissions, it is likely that the last submission would be the one that would be utilized, but we hope that we are not going to get into that situation. So please identify one person that is actually going to serve as your application lead that will take the discussions and decisions coming out of that task force to actually submit all of the information. Once the application is released, that's where you're going to start to really look at the guiding questions to ensure that it is a nice fit and it is responsive to the needs, and making some preliminary decisions. So really thinking about that happening. Those are kind of the two big milestones that would be happening in that first week as the application is launched. Weeks 2 through 3 is really narrowing down the supports that you're going to be pursuing and starting to dig into the requirements or the assurances, ensuring that you all have a really clear picture of what does it mean if we actually get this support? What is it that we're going to be required to do? And so just making sure that there's transparency, not only kind of between like TEA and the district, but also among your team. And so that you're planning for that ahead of time. That would also be a good time to engage stakeholders, because you're getting to the point of having pretty final decisions. And so you can engage some stakeholders before kind of finalizing decisions. You can also review past stakeholder feedback. Many of you have probably already engaged in some stakeholder feedback around your other ESSER plans. And so this is a good opportunity to check for alignment, right? There could have been some things that surfaced in those discussions that you all maybe had not had the opportunity to incorporate. So this is an opportunity to go back and revisit some of the notes from that. Week 4, 2 big milestones here is finalizing decisions so that there's clarity among the task force and the lead on what are the supports that the district is going to be pursuing. And then the last piece is utilizing the guidance document, kind of the yellow fields that Andrew was talking about, to start collecting some of that application data. That section of the guidance document will really help in kind of streamlining kind of the questions that you're going to need to kind of enter data into in that application. So being able to just print those pages, have it handwritten so that you're able to quickly view them and submit, I think would help with that process and really make that process much more efficient. And then the last week is communicating decisions and actually submitting the application. And I dropped in that reminder around board approval or policy approval to utilize pre-award. So that is, if you need to have that, getting on the board agenda to have those discussions is going to be something that will help you out ultimately at the end. Most important thing to note is at the very bottom is that ESEs, all 20 across our state, are our partners in this, and we are going to be supporting them so that they're able to support you. And so they are much closer to you. You all have much stronger relationships with them. We just invite you to really utilize the support that they can offer in kind of identifying the coherent strategy, identifying the supports that are most responsive to your needs. And then the last piece is like really kind of navigating the logistics of the application. So just to recap, these are the decision points that are in T-Class. The gray sections are if you want to kind of contextualize, like, what does that support look like? Can I get a clearer picture? Looking down at the gray and saying, oh, it's similar to some of these initiatives. Some of these initiatives you might be more familiar with. And so we wanted to just make sure that we are grounding in, there's 5 instructional strategies, there's 10 decision points. We've also put a reference on what are some of the more established TEA initiatives that you might be more familiar with, so that you can better understand what the support looks like. And then the last piece is just a reminder of what is to come. And that is, we're going to update our webpage, the T-Class webpage, with today's recording, as well as the slides in PDF form, so that you're able to actually turn those around, walk through them with your team as you've developed out your task force. So that will be posted very soon. The second piece is I'm noticing that in our T-Class, y'all are utilizing our T-Class email address, and that is really around a lot of the support specific questions, which is going to be wonderful for me to actually add those to, give those over to our initiative owners as they're preparing for these decision point specific webinars. We have timed these so that you are able to, if interested, attend all of them. So there is not any that are happening at the same time, but instead we have kind of spread them out over a 1-week period of time. And we are not going to be starting those until the week of July 12th. That gives other folks that weren't able to join us live today the opportunity to review the T-Class overview, for you all to actually convene or send your team the recording of this overview, knowing that these next 2 weeks is when our district leaders actually get the opportunity to disconnect. And so we wanted to make sure that you all had this when you returned as an additional support. All of those decision-specific webinars will be recorded. So it is an opportunity that if you do have a conflict, you will be able to go back and review those webinars at a later date. So also on our webpage, we also have the registration links. The registration links are also going to be in the PDF version of these slides once we have them posted. This is an opportunity for you to see them all on one page. The initiative owners are actually going to be facilitating these decision-specific webinars. That gives participants the opportunity to ask the much smaller grain size questions about what that support actually looks like, what the funding looks like. And so we ask that you kind of bring those questions or submit those ahead of time so that we can send them to initiative owners so that they are better prepared to include that in their sessions or be prepared to share those answers. So we are now to the point of questions. And so we do have a couple that I want to name, but I am going to first say we have 516 of the most understanding and patient folks on this webinar today. We did not have the opportunity to enable the Q&A. So thank you for all of those that have submitted a question. We are going to include those in an FAQ and we will send them out to you. We are not able to kind of unmute folks that have a raised hand. So you all as educators know that sometimes we have to roll with it. And so Andrew and I have had to roll with it this morning. So let's just take a few minutes.
Yeah, Lizette, if you don't mind, there's a couple that I think are relevant to everybody on this call that came through. So again, keep those questions coming to tclass@ta.texas.gov and engage as much as you can where it makes sense for you. 2 main questions that I see coming across. One is about individual program requirements. So I've heard about this program before, sounds interesting. I want to learn more about what's actually required of me. Go directly to that support specific webinar. And so those are the ones that are available in the middle of July that you'll be able to attend. The last question the other question that's been coming across a lot is who's eligible to apply for this? Do I have to be on a list? What is it? This is any LEA in Texas. That is any school district or open enrollment charter school is eligible to apply for these funds through funds and supports through T-Class. So again, Lizette and I are very thankful to have y'all spend this time. Reach out with any questions, T-Class at ta.texas.gov. And we hope to see you in the next couple of weeks, either coming across the inbox or at one of our next webinars.
Great. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the 4th and enjoy some time kind of unplugged. Thank you all for joining us today.